Oliver.
Hello.
And he was just telling us some great information about, for our young millennials, about setting up their 401ks and setting up their plans for success in the future.
Right.
So we were talking about.
Well, the paperwork involved, and the millennials now use the computer much more than we did, and they tend to gravitate towards that as answers. And they have Google more than we ever did. And we were talking a little bit about definitions before the break. And yeah, the definitions, some of them are a little confusing, HSA and HMO and regional this. And I was picking out my health benefits last night, as a matter of fact. And I'm reading this stuff, and there's 3 plans on silver. There's a couple plans on bronze. There's a couple plans on gold. There's tier 1. There's tier 2. Stop. That's it. That's enough for me. I'm going to make a phone call. And I've been in the business all this time, and I think I know what I see, but I want to make sure I know what I see. So people should not be afraid to choose, to call and ask questions, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I can tell you that if you don't do it right and you make a big mistake, you make a little mistake, it could be a big mistake in terms of thousands of dollars of re-deductibles, having to pay again for your, out-of-pocket costs, and that's crazy stuff that really bothers a young person.
It is so scary.
Yeah.
I mean, even just hearing you say that, you
Yeah.
say, oh, let's go to Google, look it up. You can find it. There's a massive information, but I often find that massive information is intimidating because there are those different
is.
tiers
It
and
is.
all of these different things to think about.
And then, of course, you got the marketplace. So you're a young person, 26 years old. You have a job. You're making $32,000 a year. I'm making this up, obviously, and you go to the marketplace. Now you can apply for a subsidy. So the coverage may cost this much, but the subsidy it ends up costing this much. Well, how the heck do I do that? Who's going to help me?
Are you going to help me?
I'm not an expert in that area. I can point people in the right direction that
Okay.
will help you.
So you're
and
a
people,
connector?
and that's all I really believe I am at this point in life is really connecting successes, connecting a question with an answer, connecting a request with a solution. Those things. That's what people want. I want to move on.
Right. So
I wanna move
I
on.
want our audience to know today if they're going to start a new job or start something up for the new year. Say, what advice do you have for them other than I know Google is great, but what would
Okay.
you say to a new employee
Great.
who's hit here with a stack of paper? Is there a percentage? Is there something that you feel comfortable as advice that would be for all of our listeners?
Well, first of all, it's important to read and learn. Read, sit down, turn the TV off, and just spend 1 hour, which is really hard for people. Spend an hour reading it and grasping what they're trying to tell you. You cannot do this quickly. This is not buying clothes. You have to really, put your feet in the shoe, your foot in the shoe to make sure it fits right. And I, for one, have gone back and forth with 2 particular plans, and I do this all the time in terms of, I've been doing this for years. So I understand what I'm reading, but I want to make sure I don't know which one's the best for me. Make sure you understand what you're reading, number one. Number two, make sure that you ask questions if you need to. Number three, I can tell you right now that if you're a person and you're not saving money, you need to start saving money. So you should start saving 2, 3, 4% of your pay. If your company has a match, you save up to the maximum match at the very least. My match is 25 cents on the dollar up to 3% of pay. Well, now I'm going to put in at least 3%. Every year, every 6 months, I want you to add 1%. Why? If you're making $30,000 a year, 1% is $300. $300 divided into 52 weeks is $6 a week.
So we
$7 a week. So every year, add 1%, and you won't feel it by some point in time. You'll be 30, 31, 32, 33, and you're putting away 8% of whatever that pay is, and you didn't even know you were doing it because you've built up to it, which is really how you learn things. If you ever realize how we learn sports, how we learn how to read, we do it in little pieces. And then we build, and at the end of the day, we go, wow, I know how to read. Wow, I can swing a golf club. And that's how we learn. And retirement plans and investments and most learning in general is built the same way. And what I've always told my kids, and their mother was wonderful raising them, teach people how to study, and then they can learn anything.
Okay. So teaching people to study, is there something that you would recommend that people read, or other than the paper that their employer is going to give to them? Scott,
Very good point.
what could you
Yeah.
say to somebody who's just starting out and maybe looking at December as a time to start thinking maybe about some resolutions and what they're going to do with their finances for January? Is there something specific you would say this is the greatest thing to get a basic
Yes.
understanding of how the
If you're
market
not in a
works?
401k, you should be aiming to put away money every year and start out the goal at the end of the year, at the end of a certain period of time, and you decide what that is. I want to put away 10% of pay. So you start out at 3%. And in 7 years, you add 1%. In 7 years, you'll be at 10%. Now, with a young person who's now putting away 10% of pay at age 32 or 33, you're going to win. You're going to win the game. I hate to sound like Trump, but you're going to win. And that's the whole game here. No one cares about you as much as you do.
I love it.
No one does. You have to pay yourself first before you pay anybody else, before you see it, smell it, touch it, or spend it. You can't go broke saving money. It's impossible. So people need to put their foot in the water and save money. Now, in terms of the investments, most of the 401k investments are centered now around mutual funds that are in buckets, in baskets. So this basket is for someone who's 30 years old, who's young, and they take a little risk test. And the test will tell them, use this basket of funds. If your plan doesn't have that, you need to call me, because that makes it easy for people.
Call Scott.
And, call me, 609-922-0201. I'll make it easy for you, because it really should be. You set it and you forget it. I want you to look at it 4 times a year when you get your statements. I want you to add 1% every 6 months or every year. And then I want you to visit the gentleman who has sold you the plan, the person who's responsible as an advisor to help the participants understand the plan. I want you to tap into that person at least once a year and check with them.
And he should feel obligated to speak to you, he or she.
Absolutely.
So even though I might only have a small amount of money, I still should have access to my advisor.
Absolutely, because you know what? I started out with no money, and now I have money. And why? I saved a bunch of it. And if you don't save, you don't have options.
Well, I want to talk about some of those savings ideas, but we have to take a break, so
Okay.
We'll be right back with Scott Tanker in just a minute. I'm sure you're going to stand by.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
My dream job is to run and manage my own spa one day.
To be the general manager for the Jumeirah Hotel in Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
I feel that Merciers has prepared me very well for my future in the hospitality industry.
The kitchen is incredible.
You are planning the meal, doing all the costing and the recipes. You're in charge of everything going on in the kitchen.
They really do get you prepared, and they want to make sure that you have a job after college.
When it comes to injuries,
they're not all created equal.
that's why at Performance Spine and Sports Medicine,
Our team of doctors will coordinate and customize your care
to provide the best treatment options using the area's most advanced medical technology,
all with one goal in mind.
to get you back in the game,
We call life
pain-free,
drug-free.
surgery-free. That's what we do here at Performance Spine and Sports Medicine.
Get better faster.
Stay better longer.
Saving your business money is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Tanker Consulting Services, a payment solutions expert, will show you how with a free, detailed, written analysis illustrating your cost savings. We usually uncover savings between 10 and 25%, and sometimes more. We can help your business succeed by providing reliable and secure merchant payment solutions such as merchant services programs, point-of-sale systems, and ATM machines. TCS, one of the leaders in regional credit card processing consulting, offers electronic payments to merchants locally and nationwide through our preferred vendor programs. We work to keep business costs down with a comprehensive suite of quality products, services, and customized credit card processing programs exclusively tailored for your company. TCS is convenient, reliable, and innovative, with customer service available 24/7, 365 days a year. Our in-depth industry knowledge, partnership strategy, and innovative processing solutions allow for a specialized approach to providing merchant bank processing with 100% full fee disclosure. TCS is one-stop shopping for all your merchant services solutions. Our clients save money 100% of the time. Trust Tanker Consulting Services, the knowledgeable, professional, and friendly provider of secure payment services. We set the standard by which others are measured. Call now for a free written analysis. 609-922-0201.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Good morning and welcome back. We're still here with Scott Tanker, who's got some great ideas about what we need to do as far as saving our money and spending our money and making sure we make wise decisions, certainly when we're starting a new career or starting a new job and having to make decisions about percentages and how much and what plans and where we're going to put our money. And it's all so confusing and scary.
Yes.
And Scott has some great answers, and I wanted to talk to you. You mentioned about saving and how important it is to do that first, pay yourself first, which I'm a firm believer in. And I want to say to you, Scott, is it okay to stay or to have your kids stay in the basement so that they can save money into their 401k? When do they become a grown-up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had a little different situation in my family with my children. They went to college. They didn't stay home, and they furthered themselves, and they got jobs, and they never really came home to stay like you're referring to. Now, that wasn't necessarily my druthers, but I promised them that they could go to any college that they got into, and they kept me with my promise, and I kept to the promise, which is fine. But in today's world, it's so expensive to send your kids to school, but so incredibly important to send your kids to school that you have to prioritize that, which means if the first 2 years, at least here in New Jersey, you go to a smaller school, a community school, where the price is more reasonable and the core level of subjects are fairly much the same as another school, and I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great way to go. And then the final 2 years, of course, you go to a more
That sounds great.
a more established school, if you will.
Right.
If you can, and people do that.
Right.
Now, living in the basement is something that I think you have to have some rules. I think that's, in today's world with kids, you have to have some rules, and they have to respect the parents. It's the parents' house, and they have to respect the fact that. Now, I've been with friends whose kids stayed there for a few years, and when they finally left, it was wonderful for both sides. But while they were there were times when the shoe's not big enough to fit everybody in there.
So, but my question to you is, and I have so much I want to say, but my question to you is, if it is parent to child, I really think it's important for you to save, to be able to save,
Right.
and student loans aside and whatever other information and things are going on. If the parent is willing to have the child stay, does it make sense to say, stay in the house and I will keep you here, rent-free maybe, or at
Right.
some reduced place so that
right.
you can start saving for that 401k when you're
Yes.
just starting off.
Yes.
And that's okay.
I've had friends tell me their daughters or sons, this is the deal, little Johnny, you're going to be in the house for 10 months, and I want you to save X amount of dollars in your job for 10 months, and after that, then you're going to go get a place. They help them learn how to live, how to live their life through their finances, which is not easy because you can get credit cards pretty easily.
Oh, that's a whole other topic, and we don't have time for that
No.
today, Scott. But
No, we
I
don't.
really want you
No.
to tell our audience, give your information about where they can find you. You have a wealth of information
Thank
that
you.
is so valuable that people really need. And it sounds great to, go look on Google, look it up on the internet, but I'd much rather ask you.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, it's for the listeners out there, you have to just think about common sense. A lot of it's common sense. If you're saving 3%, why not add 1%? If you're making $50,000 a year, 1% is $500. It's 52 weeks in a year. It's about $10 a week. Oh, okay. When you bring it down to those levels, people say, sure, I want to add 1%. So that's easy.
Just get started.
Right, and tell people about investments. Look, you can have a menu of investments. You choose them yourself, which is probably not a great idea because you're new at it. So why don't you choose one of the buckets that is set up specifically for you as an investor or as an age-based type of investor, and then set it and then begin to learn slowly. You don't retire in a year. You don't retire in a day. Nothing takes that short a period of time, unless of course you play the lottery, which I don't recommend as a goal. Although it's okay for fun, I guess. I know I never won. Don't worry about it. I never won. So with people with those kind of mentalities, where you add 1% a year and you put the money away and you look at your statements and you just every so often take a look at things, you can put that aside on your plate of worry and continue moving forward, because when you're 25 to 35, the most important thing is to work, get a great experience, and build yourself up for the next stage of your life, which is 35 to 50.
Okay, and you talked about, after the first year, after the first bunch of years having a certain amount of money, just talk briefly about compounding interest and what that can mean, but starting at that young age. If you save while
Right.
you're in the basement, before you go out into the big world and start paying rent, electricity, and all kinds of other expenses that you don't know exist. Toilet paper actually does cost money.
Yeah. No, there are little costs that really.
But
I
how-
see the young people saying, "That's $30." Yeah, it is. Wow, they get crazy.
But how can that money grow? How
Well,
can you
most of-
incentivize
how do you
our
say-
audience?
First of all, get in
to-
your 401k if you have a qualified plan in your company. Get into the 401k. The investments are usually less expensive than if you did it on your own, typically. If you don't have a qualified plan in your employer's plan, then get in an IRA. And I recommend going to the no-load funds. The Vanguards, the T. Rowe Prices, where they're less expensive, and there's people on the phones that will help you build those plans and start saving. Just start saving. Everybody here is at the bottom of the mountain. And I know this sounds crazy. It's so easy to climb the mountain. I hope one day they call me and say, how do I get down? Because I have all this money, and I want to get down the mountain without having the IRS take all my money. What's the best ways to get down? Frankly, when you think about it, it's not hard to save. You take it from here, and you put it there. And when you don't know what you're doing, you let the experts help you.
And you can help us get down the mountain too, for our listeners
Absolutely.
who have climbed the
Yes.
mountain and are now ready to start spending it.
That is even more important than climbing the mountain, is how do I get down this mountain where I have predictable income, given the environment, where I have a benefit so that, God forbid, when I die, there's someone else there that can receive some of the efforts that I have earned over the years, and how can I have enough money to do what I want to do? And I do not, repeat, I ask everybody this, if you could take all the taxes away from your distributions, would you like to do that? Of course I would, Scott. So no one wants to pay taxes.
Right.
No, legally. No one wants to legally pay
Right,
taxes.
right.
So there's lots of ways to do things to make sure you stay out of that chasm of having to pay taxes all the time.
Excellent. Scott, tell us again where our viewers can find you.
My name is Scott Tanker. My number is 609-922-0201. My email site is stanker at tankerconsultinggroup.com. And of course my website is www.tankerconsultinggroup.com. I would love to hear from anybody. I really enjoy helping people take the next step in their life and then be independent. Be independent, meaning learn how to save your money, learn how to spend your money. It's okay to get help learning, but at some point you're going to have to do it yourself.
I
Everybody.
think you have great advice for us. Thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Scott.
you.
It's been so wonderful.
It's a pleasure. Thank you,
We're
Michelle.
going to come back after the break with Dan Ristolo of RS and Company, and I hope you'll stand by to join us for our next conversation.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been.